Hello and welcome to Fixed Blade Friday on the Edge. And yes, that is a thing, or it's going to be a thing. So I'm planning on every so often on a Friday just doing a dedicated fixed blade segment on the Edge. So this then becomes the official first fixed blade Friday knife, although it's not my first fixed blade knife on the channel, it's actually my third. And all three, as it turns out, have been Extrema ratios. So let's start by looking at what in one of my reviews I kept on referring to as the pouch, and it is, of course, the sheath. So we have a Cordura sheath for this knife. Moly attachments all over the place for it, so you can get this onto your gear. And then it's got the belt attachment, also with Moly on there, that can actually be removed. So let's just unclip that so that you've got just a sheath basically that looks like that you can attach to your kit as well. Right, so let's get the sheath out of the way and get this good looking, and I think I say that about every knife I get in front of the camera. It's because that's the way I feel, but good looking knife in front of you. So this is the Extrema Ratio Col Moschin in black. So let's explain. Well, in fact, I'm not going to explain that yet. I'll explain that in a little while. I'll speak about the background and why this knife exists. But let's go as per usual. I'll go through materials and then we'll speak about dimensions, and then I'll speak a little bit about the design and the background of the knife. So what we have here is a blade of Bowler N690, and once again the same as those other fixed blade knives that I looked at. We have the Mil C 13924 burnishing, and that's how they describe it. And as I said before, I'm assuming that's some sort of military tough coating that they put on the blade. This one's got a little bit of a scratch on it, but never mind. And then the handle is what they describe as forepreen, and I explained that in the review that I did for the Fulcrum. So a little bit of a rubbery feel, but clearly a very tough material, but also really does feel good in hand. You get nice grip on it, and because it's got that little rubbery feel, it actually feels nice when you do get a good grasp on it. That slightly doesn't really give way, but difficult to explain. If you push your nail into it, let's see if that shows. You can dig your nail into it and then it sort of self-repairs, if you know what I mean. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to explain there. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the materials. In terms of dimensions, we have let's move it like that so you can see the blade a little bit better in the light. We've got a blade length of 160 millimeters, and that's 6.3 inches. The blade thickness is 6.3 mils at its widest point. Maybe I should bring it over there so you can see that. 6.3 millimeters or 0.25 inches. And then the weight of this knife is 264 grams or 9.3 ounces. There we go. Now there is another one that's coming out according to the website this year. There's going to be a collector's edition of this that comes in a sort of little clear little stand on it that's got the Col Moschin name on it, and it says that it is a limited collector's edition for the knife. And then you get one in a Desert Warfare that they call Desert Warfare, that has that flat dark earth, I guess, color handle, and then it has this handle that blade, I should say, that Extrema Ratio does, where you have a black blade and then it has these crisscrossed flat dark earth. It almost looks like searchlight beams that are sort of crisscrossed on the blade, but really does look good. In fact, there's a review coming out, might be before this review, in fact, in which case it's the same as one of the knives that I'm showing in that review, also an Extrema Ratio. And if it hasn't come out by the time you see this, keep an eye out for that review, because it'll be you'll be able to see that pattern on that knife. There we go. So, a little bit of a background for this knife. So, clearly a fighting knife. And this knife, according to the website and the information I could find on it, was made to order for the 9th Parachute Assault Unit. And that is then called the Col Moschin. And that of the Italian Special Forces. So it was officially adopted in 2002 and is then a knife that is issued to that 9th Parachute Assault Unit. So what happens, I just want to see the notes that I made here, or maybe I'll get to that in a little while. But how they describe this is that this is a contemporary reworking of the knives that were used by the Arditi. Now, if you've seen the review that I did of the Arditi, and if you haven't, please go check that out. So what they say is that this is basically the contemporary reworking of that knife. So a shorter combat fighting knife. That other knife was a more dagger shape, spear point shape. It wasn't sharpened on both sides. But as they say, this then just a reworking of that shape. So designed to be light and handy, and then the balance of the knife is purposely with the balance towards the hilt of the knife, so towards the handle side of the knife. That's where the weight of the knife is. So apparently what happens is each new incursore, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now that is an assault paratrooper. So each one is then issued one of these once they qualify. They get one of these knives. The handle itself is very much the same as the fulcrum that I reviewed, and that was a longer knife that looks the same as the bayonet that they use, but a tanto-shaped blade. But the handle looks very much the same as that. And then you've got this like big-sized jimping on there that I think, and I'm speaking under correction, but I think on the bayonet has something to do with the way the bayonet attaches, but they've kept the same sort of finish on this blade. And then you see the very squared off hand protection on it. So yeah, it really does feel good in hand. The grind on the blade, by the way, I didn't speak about. So you've got a hollow grind on the blade. They call it a razor grind. I think that's what it was called. I'll check the notes now. But it is a hollow grind on that blade. And then you've got this very big swedge on the back that is also hollow ground. So, it's obviously done for a practical reason, but it does actually look very attractive as well, the way that catches the light. It really does look good. So yeah, and then you can see we've got a serrated portion of the blade as well, close to the hand, and then a very big sharpening choil, very neatly done. Now this is a military knife. They're not a military style knife. It is a military knife, but interesting, the fulcrum was quite roughly finished, which you can expect for a military issue knife, because it's not done for show purposes or for presentation purpose or anything like that. But this knife, quite different to that, is really finished off nicely. So no machine marks or anything on this, and that coating is really done evenly and beautifully. So really nice. Just as a matter of interest, the motto for these parachute assault units is "Della Folgori L'Impeto," if I've got the pronunciation correct, and that is from the Thunderbolt, the momentum. That's the translation of that into English. And then on the blade, you can see etched on the blade is the insignia of the 9th Parachute Assault Unit. So nice that that's on the blade as well, that you get that there, and very, very neatly done. I think that is pretty much all there is to say about the knife, other than that it is a good-looking knife and clearly fit for purpose. and does feel really good in hand. I brought a couple of other knives out just to do size comparisons, and in fact it's some of the same knives that I used in the last review when I had the fixed blades. So the one is the what is this knife? It is the Boker Applegate Fairbairn Combat 2. Ah, there we go, got it out. Right, so have a look at that knife. Similar sort of length, but this is a dagger, this blade, and you'll see that in the other review as well. So sharpened on both sides and that shape to the blade, but clearly also a fighting knife, also in all black. Very, very similar lengths. The Boker is in 440C steel, so not as good steel, and a slightly different style of knife as well. You can see that that's a more sort of modern type of combat fighting knife. Right, so there's that one so that you can see it, but also a good looking knife. Let's get that out of the way. Then the other one is the right, sorry, I'm going to scratch him out of the desk here and rearrange everything that was lying on it. Is this guy. This is the Dewstar, an Israeli-made knife that was also designed to be a combat knife, also for special forces. And this particular knife is in D2 steel, but you can see a more sort of similar style of knife, even though this one is in the stonewashed gray. You can actually get this knife in an all black version as well, and obviously would look more similar. Much heavier knife. It is, you can see a chunkier blade on this and an altogether heavier construction, so not as wieldy as the Extrema Ratio, or Extrema Ratio, I see is the way, something like that is the way Italians pronounce the name. But D2, as I said, and then we've got some sort of polymer or glass-filled nylon or something handle on the Dewstar knife. Swing them that way so you can see the handle of that knife, the name of that knife as well. Right, so there's that one. And then the other one I brought out is an Ontario, and it's the Ontario Spec Plus Fighter. And this one is in a high carbon, so the 1095 carbon steel. Also sort of similar shaped blade. Let's move it that way so you can see it, and you can see the edge there a little bit. And in this case, also sharpened on the swedge. So clearly a fighting knife, that one, but considerably sharper. Similar material on the handle. I'm not sure what they call it on the Ontario, but it's got that same rubbery feel. Feels almost identical to this material that's being used on the Extrema Ratio. So right, there's that one. Let's get a look at them from that side as well. Right, and that's I think pretty much it, except that I do need to say, just get this put away. Once again, thanks very much to Blades and Triggers in South Africa. Really appreciate their support. Once again, a really nice knife from them for me to mess around with and perhaps lust after a little bit. But I do appreciate their support of the channel, and specifically I go to the branch in Eastgate in Johannesburg. So, you know, to Bowen and his team, I want to say thank you very much again. They're always incredibly helpful and accommodating. And then the price of this guy at Blades and Triggers is 6,559 Rand. And as I mentioned before, go chat to the guys. They're always willing to do a deal to make you happy and make you a repeat customer. And then at Knife Center, he is $396 for those who are interested in the dollar price. But do go check out the Blades and Triggers website. Great variety of knives on their website, and that is BNT Online. And they have, I've mentioned before, a great range of Extrema Ratio knives as well. So various fixed blade and folding knives from Extrema Ratio. Guys, I think that's pretty much it. I'll give you another look of that handsome looking blade and the rest of the knife in my hand, so you can get a little bit of a size perspective on that, and from the other side as well. Very, very good looking knife, and clearly an effective knife, a knife that has been adopted by special forces, Italian special forces. So very, very nice. Guys, I think that is pretty much all I have for you today. So once again, I really appreciate you joining me, and I would really appreciate it as well if you would subscribe and hit that bell icon, because I would love it if you joined me more often. And other than that, you go well, and God bless.